Blog Talk Radio.
Hello, folks. How you doing? It's Danny Tisdale, and it's the Danny Tisdale Show. And I am so glad that you're here for our series on Madam C.J. Walker and Annie Malone. This is the second show in the series. Yesterday we had, on the first show we had Miss Alila. Hello? We just had a little tech problem, I'm sorry. And that's a guest that you hear in the background there. But we had Miss Alila Bundles on the show. And today on the show, we have, of course, another set of great guests, James Bryson and Miss Sasha Turnbo. And I will introduce them in a second. But what I want to do before we get started is let you know that you can contact us and hit us up anywhere across the social platform at Harlem World Magazine. Excuse me. And as you know, we're doing this show as part of, as I said before, a special program. And let's get right to it. We have Mr. James Bryson on the show after an award-winning educator and author and national trainer. His passion and commitment for helping people to maximize their potential inspired him to be founder of the New Millennial Institute's Life Skills and Jobs Readiness Boot Camp and Illinois Central College's Harvesting Dreams African American Male Retention Program. The brother's busy. Harvesting Dreams produced Student of the Year and received a city proclamation from the Peoria Mayor James Artis. And I will speak to Mr. Bryson in a second with Ms. Turnbo, but I wanted to introduce Ms. Turnbo first by reviewing her bio. Sasha Turnbo is a Howard University student, and Annie Turnbo Malone is her great-great-aunt, the mother of African-American hair and beauty business in our wonderful country. Annie Malone opened Pora College in St. Louis, Missouri. This was the first beautician college in the United States. Over the last few years, Sasha has visited the Annie Malone Children and Family Service Center, where she has been in contact with many historians and journalists who have dedicated their lives to sharing Annie's story. While she is working as an ambassador for her great-great-aunt, she loves to cook and experiment with new flavors and recipes, and as part of her vegan lifestyle. Okay, as I take a deep breath, how are you both doing, Mr. Bryson and Ms. Turnbo?
I'm doing well today.
And how are you, Ms. Turnbo? Hello, Ms. Turnbo? Well, I have her connect, but it doesn't seem like she is connected. Let me reconnect before I get started here.
Yes.
Ms. Turnbo?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes,
Hello?
I do. I love when technology works. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Fantastic. Sasha, can you turn up your volume just a second or two?
Yes, let me see.
There we go. And Sasha, as you
get
connected, that's a lot better.
Okay,
thank
great.
you both for being here. And I'm going to push ahead because our 30 minutes are going to fly by, and I want to get as many questions as I can in with the time that we have. I want to start with Sasha, you first. And, you know, we have many, many business women in Harlem, and our main readership in Harlem with Harlem World Magazine are women. And what made Annie Malone such a successful businesswoman? Was it her focus? Was it her creativity? Do you have a idea of really what made her as successful as she was at the turn of our last century?
Annie was very in tune with her faith, and that really led her wherever she went with everything that she accomplished. She was a fearless leader, and she believed in empowering African-American women with the resources that they needed to start their own businesses and selling products that she made in her kitchen. And that business that she started in her kitchen then transitioned to a college. And with that college, she encompassed everything that that company needed. So she allowed that one seed to grow a plethora of ideas. And in that college, it served as a communal space for African Americans. It had a beautiful auditorium where they showcased their amazing talents, a rooftop garden where they had many supplies that she used for her company. She included a laundry and sewing facility that created the uniforms and different clothing items that they needed, and even a medical unit, where African Americans could receive treatment, because during that time they couldn't really go to a hospital to receive proper care, and she wanted to make sure that anything that our people needed they can get. And so I believe that she was successful by allowing one thing to ricochet into numerous things.
That sister was busy. I'm sorry if I could put it that way. She was busy, and you can be busy, and some people are busy and not productive. But I think she puts a new kind of definition to productivity. Mr. James, did you have can you add to that?
Yeah. Everybody has gifts and talents. And one thing that Annie had was vision. She had a vision on where she wanted to go. She had a vision on how to get there. But more importantly than that, she was also driven and was one of the first servant leaders. So what that just simply means is that she saw a mission bigger than herself, kind of like what Sasha said, that happened to empower not just herself with business, but her race. It was at a point in time where individuals were coming out of slavery, trying to find self-sufficiency and economic independence. And Annie, with her vision and her gifts and talents, was driven to make that come to fruition. So everybody has gifts, everybody has talent, and she was blessed enough to be able to empower that and make that happen for her people, for herself, and for us, because now we get to tell the story.
Certainly so. And Sasha, I wanted to go back to you. Did I hear you? Were you going to say something? I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you didn't.
Oh, okay.
You didn't cut me
off. So,
off.
Sasha, I'm curious. We have so many people in Harlem and around the nation and the world who, they're signing up for webinars to get the vision. They're having mentors at SCORE to find out how to have great vision, to look for the future. Do you have an idea of where she got that vision from, to look at the big picture, to kind of step back and see the steps that she had to make, even though our friends at Netflix seem to got it a bit wrong, and not focus on her skills and Miss Walker's skills. But where do you think she got that vision to, see what she saw? And especially, we're talking, 40 or 50 years after slavery. I mean, it's a pretty incredible story. Yes,
her faith was the root of everything that she did. She believed that in helping and empowering people, that she would be able to reach the masses, and that's exactly what she did. She learned herbalism from her relatives and being on a farm, and began practicing those remedies on her sister. And through learning all these remedies and treating, itchy scalp conditions and creating these hygiene products, she was then able to show people, this is how we can implement this in our communities and lift each other up. And so I believe that her drive from her business came from her own self just wanting to see African Americans thrive. And she never really wanted to go against that grain and tear people down. She was a very introverted but positive woman. She kept to herself a lot of things, but she gave so much that a lot of people really didn't know what to do with her sometimes. When someone comes with you with so much love, so much joy, so much faith, sometimes you can be intimidated by it.
Right,
sometimes you don't know how to share that light.
Are they sincere? Are they just doing that to get something? No, I hear you, and that's an excellent point.
So I definitely think that she stayed rooted with what she wanted to do in her faith, for sure.
Mm-hmm. And Mr. Agbara, James, any response to that, what the business world says, that vision thing that she had?
There's something that I call ancestral guidance. And Annie was a orphan kind of at an early age, and then she came here to Peoria, Illinois. You ever heard the term, if it plays in Peoria, it plays across the country? Ever heard
no,
that?
But now that you say it, I'll probably hear it all the time.
You'll hear it all the time. But if it plays in Peoria, it plays across the country. When Annie came here to Peoria, she came into another family that she had that she didn't know of. Came into the Moody family, William Moody, Audie Moody, who was Annie's sister. And Annie inherited a host of nieces, nephews, and cousins. And all of these individuals welcomed her into their house. And Annie was raised in my great-grandfather's house and Ada's house, along with their 6 children. But with that came a recipe of love, came a recipe on how to be prosperous, became a recipe through the ancestors, because both families came from slavery. And so at that point in time, slaves wanted the most for their children. So it's ancestral guidance that's been passed down, and loving and supporting family, along with a strong spiritual foundation, gave her the drive, the vision to be able to capitalize on her gifts, talents, and skills.
That's deep, and I'm trying to stick with the questions I sent you, but I hope you guys got the other note, which is that sometimes I go off script, and I wanted to ask Sasha. And Sasha, I know you kind of came in late and probably didn't hear all of my intro of your bio, but I know that are you still at Howard, or you were at Howard?
No, I was at Howard. Yes, I was at Howard.
Okay.
I'm no longer at Howard.
Okay. So I just wanted to ask you, and it's just the 3 of us here talking. Do you feel any pressure to do the work that we all want you to do for your great aunt? Uh-oh, silence. Sasha, are you still there? No, so that was my question. Do you feel any pressure in the work that you're doing to work in some ways step in your great aunt's footsteps?
No, not at all. I feel like this is something that is very easy. This is something that is very natural for me, and this is family.
Great.
When it comes to family, you don't really get too anxious or feel pressured to do anything, because it's all out of love, and that's what I'm tied to when it comes to everything that I do with anyone. Everything that I do is out of love and out of confidence in what I believe in upholding with my family name.
Sasha, that's a great and beautiful thing, and really wonderful to hear. I just want our listeners to hear this, that they are listening to the Danny Tisdale Show. I'm Danny Tisdale. It's on Harlem World Magazine Radio. Harlem World Magazine is an independently owned company, so please hit us up on the orange button below and support the work that we do. And we are right back to our conversation about the legendary Annie Malone. And I had a feeling this was going to happen. Our first 15 minutes have just flown by, and so I'll try to be more strategic and quick in asking my questions so that we can take full advantage of this conversation. And James Agbara, I wanted to ask you, there may be a little girl out there listening, and 75% of our listeners are women, and 30 to 40% of them are moms. There may be a little girl out there listening who wants to follow in Annie Malone's footsteps, and obviously this is a question for both of you, but what would you tell her, that little girl, Agbara, of how Miss Malone was as successful as she was and able to have the vision and do the work that she did, and used her faith to do it. But what would you tell that little girl who's listening about, lessons that can be learned by looking at Annie Malone and following her life?
Well, I tell you, there's 5 things that I tell students. First thing you want to know is who you are. We all have gifts. We all have talents. And once you understand what your gifts and talents are, along with that usually comes a vision. So you have to start thinking about who you are and what do you want. The other thing is this, is that once you decide what you want, you have to understand that you're going to have perseverance. And that was one of the things that Annie had was perseverance. There are going to be obstacles. There's going to be things that's going to stop you. You're going to have to be careful who you hang around, because there's a lot of haters out there. If people aren't going to support you, then you need to get you a new crop of people. But you're also going to have to have a plan of action. This is where I want to go. This is how I'm going to get there. How am I going to get there? But the other thing, too, with Annie, and what I would say to anyone is that, business is good, but Annie went beyond business. It was bigger than her personal business. It went with community empowerment. So I would encourage little girls, little boys, who's ever listening, to also, when they're looking at their business, their vision, to see if it has a component of community empowerment as well as being a servant leader. But those would be some of the things that I would tell individuals. But also, education is the key. Annie Malone didn't have much education. No one at that point in time, but she had drive, she had wisdom, she had a lot of energy, but more importantly, she chose something that was bigger than herself. So I would also include that also, something bigger than yourself.
That's fantastic, Agbara. And Sasha, you want to add to that?
Yes, she definitely worded that beautifully, because that's all she believes in doing is uplifting those around her and contributing to her community. And anything that you want to do, you have to make sure that you're including uplifting those around you, including everything in her business model of empowering your people and serving your people to be able to reach the greater good.
And I want to add just one other thing, too.
Oh, please.
The other thing, and Sasha's touched up on it numerous times, but the other thing is I believe that, we all have to have some kind of spiritual foundation, some way that gives us a way to live, something that is not self-destructive, something that is not toxic, but something that is healing, healthy, and makes you feel whole as a person. And when you can have a business that makes that happen, then you become much, much just like Annie, much, much bigger than your business.
Very true, and I can tell you that by way of my own experience, I changed kind of our business model once I, looked at my uncle's publishing history out of Mississippi, the Jackson Advocate, and it's been a better road to travel. It's still challenges, and that vision thing that you talk about is much important as you and Sasha mentioned. So I certainly hear you and understand that, and and you don't have to respond if, of course, you don't want to. But I wanted to take this spin of telling Miss Malone's story as opposed to just focusing on the story the movie Self-Made told, and I thought we could approach it in a more positive way than to just look at how the story told was not told in a way that empowers the viewer and those who are in love with both Annie Malone and Miss Madam C.J. Walker. And with that, I do have a question that kind of indirectly talks about the movie. And, do you see in the future where there may be opportunities for a conversation between Annie Malone historians and family members like yourself and Madam C.J. Walker, family and friends and historians, where there may not be a conversation about agreeing about the history, but to maybe talk about the future and how we move forward? And Sasha, you or James Agbara can respond to that.
Well, from my point of view, I think what you're doing right now is a first step. Most of Annie Malone's story is a hidden story. You start looking at Annie Malone, basically it's the same information, same facts. Well, I think people have to get to know who Annie was at a much deeper level. And we also have to include the Netflix series had a great opportunity to educate millions and millions of people on both, because they both did great things. They both were ahead of their times. They both are worthy of studying, as well as coming up with models and things. So I think that as much as we can shed light and not make Annie Malone such a hidden story, but to share and educate who she was, what she did, why she did it. But at the same time, when you do that, you can also uphold Madam Walker's accomplishments too. It doesn't have to be one or the other, in my mind.
Right.
They both need to be celebrated. We are in need of heroes, and they both were heroes.
Most definitely, and the sheroes are right there with them. What do you think, Sasha? Agree or maybe not?
Yes, I definitely think both are being celebrated. I think that this has been a great opportunity to shed light on both. And I think that there have been conversations with the Annie Malone and Madam Walker side coming together, and that has been a thing, and it's going to continue to grow. And sharing Annie's light and Annie's story is what's most empowering for me. And I feel as though bringing that in and including and recognizing all that she's done and pairing that with all of the amazing things that Madam C.J. Walker has done will continue to share the light on both women. I don't think that there ever has to be, feeling like, that there's a division. I think that there are two women who have come together and they'll always be in an amazing light and sharing their accomplishments And so, yes, they'll always be in the same pace. They're in the same sector. They're both amazing pioneers in the hair care industry. So there's not much of a division between them.
Right, right. No, I completely agree with both of you, and that's and I think Agbara said it, and I think you're both saying it, directly or indirectly, which is, why we wanted to approach it this way. I am just, on the edge of my seat, wanting to know the history, and I love business, and I love being successful, and here are two women who were two of the best, and they happen to be women, and they happen to be, black, and I want to know, how they were able to, have the success that they have in such a, when all the odds were against them, and I just can't get over how amazing the story is. And, Sasha and James, we're already, at the 3-minute mark and counting down already. And, I want to make sure that you share your contact information with our listeners and readers before I ask you maybe one more question. So can you share that information before I ask you a last question, Sasha and James?
Go ahead, Sasha.
Yes, I can be found on social media platforms. My name is Sasha Turnbo, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, everything.
So
fantastic. And don't ask Sasha or Mr. Bryson any private questions. Come on, folks. I'm sorry, Mr. Bryson.
Oh, I can be reached at Facebook, New Millennium Institute. You'll be able to get a overview and history on what I do. Also on LinkedIn, James Bryson.
Okay.
But you can just type in New Millennium Institute, and I'll pop up.
Oh, fantastic! And thank you both for sharing that with us. We've got about 2 and change minutes left. Any final words that you'd like to share, Sasha, with our audience as you think about the story on Netflix, and as you think about our conversation, and as you think forward?
I would like people to know that there's many resources available to everybody. Mine started with just wanting to know more about myself. And I feel like it is important for everyone to first start with the root of who they are. Because starting with the learning about who I am led me to Annie. And we all have empowering qualities in us. You may find out that your ancestor, is such an amazing pioneer. But you have to do the research. And researching everything is key. I researched Annie's business model, and I'm applying that to my own life. And I feel as though when you dig deep with what you're trying to do and you do the research and use the resources available, you'll be able to obtain any and everything that you want to accomplish. And I think that is key in a lot of success. Definitely. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say thank you, Sasha. I'm sorry, but were you finished?
No, I was going to just say, and that's a part of just educating the world on what she did. I just wanted everyone to know that.
Most definitely. And James?
Well, I think, for me...
And we've got 50 seconds left. Sorry about that.
Okay, that ancestral guidance, I thought everything that I did was due to me, but it really wasn't. It was due to Annie. It was influencing me what to do. But that also ties into purpose. We all have a purpose in life. And if you don't know what your purpose is, you can get lost. So knowing your purpose.
Thank you both, and very nice and empowering words said with the last response. And I invite you both to come back on the show so that we can, fulfill some of those last statements you made, and hope we can, share and empower our audience and around the world who are in business and who are not in business but need a life focus maybe. Thank you both for being on the show.
Thank you
really
for having
enjoyed
us.
it. Thank you both.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, take care.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, too.
And thank you, listeners, for being on the show. We, of course, will talk to you soon. Bye-bye.